Listening Colour. Hi everybody, welcome to Listening Colour with me, Rachel Walker-Mason. Today we are going back to one of my faves, one of my new favourite artists who I think I am kind of obsessed with now in a slightly unhealthy way. And I've told so many of my students and my friends about him because of you amazing people. And it is, of course, Ren. And this, as requested by hundreds of you, is a pretty dark one.
It was quite...
Right, before he even starts singing, I need to comment on this because I love how it starts off. If you didn't know anything about Ren, you wouldn't know what was going on here. It pans back from this beautiful guitar and you think, oh, that's a nice kind of flamenco style guitar playing, which is hard. It's very hard, that kind of playing. And it was beautiful. And it pans back and he's standing in an alley with loads of graffiti. And you're like, didn't think that was going to be there while he's doing flamenco music. And then he does mouth trumpet, which is always something that some of my friends do as a joke because it's funny, that kind of noise. And he does it so well. It's just like, it's like you're in a Spanish restaurant and you're having a nice time having a nice paella. And then, you know, suddenly some pretty dark storytelling is going to come because it's Ren. He's not going to sing about something lovely and joyful. It's going to be something hard-hitting because that's what he does. But I just love how his introductions to songs are so different to what's coming. I just think he's so clever, and what an amazing musician to have that skill. I know a lot of guitarists who play guitar very competently, but it's more kind of chord kind of stuff that they use to write songs. That's about the extent of my guitar playing, which I wouldn't even say is competent. But he plays so well. It's like, it's such good playing before he even goes into his epic lyrics, which even before I hear it, I know it's going to be amazing. Okay, here we go.
It was a quiet dark night in an empty street somewhere in London City. Jenny walked alone, she was dragging her feet. She was heading back home to sleep. Well, she knew this town, she knew this floor because she walked it about 1,000 times before. She wanted to escape. Can you blame? Well, on the very same night, in a different place, there walked this hooded young youth by the name of James. He was 14 years old and out of his brain, he'd been smoking ganja with the boys. James, he grew up to be a kid of the street. His mates called him Screech, he was quick on his feet. He was a liar, a thief, at 14 years old, the devil had set his sights on his soul. As Jenny walked home all alone, she felt...
Oh, what a line. The devil had set his sights on his soul. So these are the two characters that the song's named after. So it like they're like separate stories here. And Jenny, well, there's nothing horrifying said about her yet. So she's just walking home, seemingly has quite a normal life living in London. But Screech, James, known as Screech, clearly has a darker kind of path. By 14, he's already making some interesting choices. And that line, the devil had set his sights on his soul. Oh, what a line. You just know it's not going to pan out great, don't you? There is no happy ending in these stories by Ren. There's no kind of moment where it's like, but it's all okay, everyone lives happily ever after. None of that. Something terrible is going to happen. It's just when and what. Brace yourself. Right.
The devil had set his sights on his soul. As Jenny walked home all alone, she felt scared. Usually she was alright, but it was like there was something in the air. A divine intervention telling her to beware, maybe intuition bogging her and making her so scared. Sirens sounded in the distance at the beat of Jenny's feet. A symphony of the night that echoes crime on London streets. Jenny turns a corner, their eyes they meet. Up or go Jenny, a boy named Screech. Give me all your money, bitch, give it to me. If you cooperate, then you'll soon be free. I want your purse, your phone, don't fucking look at me. I mean it, bitch, are you listening to me? Jenny freezes statue like a lady shakes stalactite. Feel like liquid nitrogen in the dark night. She tried to find strength to move, but stayed as still as a statue in high-heeled shoes. What the hell you playing at? You playing games with me? I swear to fucking God, I'll slice the rosy off your cheeks. You think I don't mean it, go? You don't know me. The last thing you see will be a boy code. Screech, reach with the sheath of the blade with the teeth.
Oh God! Right, we're 2 minutes 20 in, and I think there's going to be a stabbing, which is not great, but I'm not surprised. It's a Ren song. I love that he just talks about like the underbelly of society, the things that people don't really talk about, or if they do talk about them in songs, they kind of sugarcoat them a little bit. Like, if you think about like "Welcome to the Jungle," the Guns N' Roses song, it's about how terrifying LA was at that point, that particular part of LA. So "Welcome to the Jungle," we got fun and games. It's like the whole thing is like, it's not fun and games. It's like you can get drugs on any street corner, somebody's getting stabbed over there, you know, and it's sort of sugarcoated to be like, ta-da, you know, quite shiny. And a lot of writers sugarcoat things. Ren has no sugarcoat. He's just there in his Mac, just telling us how it is. And it's very uncomfortable because you suddenly have to be confronted by a section of the world that you probably haven't wanted to think about before. And these characters he's painting, like I feel I already know them, and I'm already thinking, oh, don't make that choice, Screech, don't do it. And that poor girl who it's not going to end up great for her, and she's just frozen there in fear. And those lyrics are outstanding, like a frozen stalactite or something, like just like frozen there, because you're so scared at that point, you don't quite know what to do. And maybe she's not had a situation like that before, she doesn't know what to do. And he's just yelling at her, and he's like 14. Working in the music industry is not well paid, as many of you may know. So if you would like to support me, you can buy me a coffee, and the link is on my page here. We often say buy me a tea because I'm British and drink a lot of tea. Thank you to everyone who's done that so far. So many of you have, and you've been so incredibly generous. Like, it's your own money. You don't have to give anything to me, but the fact that you do means that I can make more videos, I can support my family. It makes just the most enormous difference. It really does. So thank you. And if you'd like a more regular way to support me, you can become a member of the Colourwave crew. And those of you who are in it already get the privilege, as any of you who join will get the privilege of seeing all my videos before anybody else does. And I know you love that because you're the first ones to get in there and comment. And I really enjoy reading your comments straight away. It's fantastic. So join up and you will get to see them first. Let's continue, see what horrible future befalls poor Jenny.
The last thing you see will be a boy code. Screech, reach with the sheath of the blade with the teeth that could bite through steel and slice concrete. And he swung possessed with the devil in his chest, and the statue she was turned to butter in her breath.
Oh.
It was a quiet dark night in an empty street somewhere in London City. Jenny lay still on the cold concrete. She's found somewhere to sleep. Well, she knew this town, she knew this floor, 'cause she'd walked it about 1,000 times before. I guess that she escaped. It's such a shame.
Wow, that was so incredible. So that's like the first part of the story, I think. So that line about him pulling out the knife and describing the knife and what it could cut through. It wasn't just like a standard kitchen knife or anything. It was a really nasty one that could cut through steel and concrete. God, a body wouldn't stand a chance. And that line about her turning, she went from like frozen to literally butter, just collapsing. That was such a horrifying image, but so you could just picture that in your mind. You could see her just melt into the ground as she died. And God, that was dark. There were some incredible lyrics there. He is honestly one of the best lyricists I think I've ever heard, ever. And lyrics are I'm a real word nerd. A lot of my music friends, even my non-music friends, refer to me as a word nerd because I am obsessed with lyrics. I have lyrics up my arm, and some songs, there's some lines in some songs that hit me so hard that I feel like I need them on me because they're just the most perfect way of describing something. And Ren has that ability. He just does. I don't know how he does this. He's got a just incredible gift. Incredible. I've never really heard anything like this before. Right. So I'm assuming this is like the next morning because it's the sunlight and he's not by the bins anymore. He's sitting in a stairwell. And the other thing I really love about Ren is that he doesn't take these songs to like a nice clean studio or like a film set and things where everything's quite clean and nice, and they kind of grunge it up a bit to make it look a bit like that. No, it's just literally filmed down the back of a pub by some bins. Like, it's literally like that. And there's no kind of pretense, there's no kind of pretending. He just does it like this. And that, I think that is what's so uncomfortable, is that there is no separation between him and the story. It's just him being honest, telling this story in the place where it would have happened. And it's not what we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing very highly polished music videos with lots of backing dancers and lighting and stuff. And this is incredibly opposite to that. And it makes us a little bit uncomfortable because we don't know what's going to happen next. We can't predict what's going to happen because there is nothing predictable about what Ren does. Nothing. So you don't know what's going to happen or what he's going to do next. And that is unsettling for audiences who are used to a certain style of music videos. Okay, let's see what happens in this bit. Wow.
Our story, it starts right at the end. At the life of poor Jenny, clocked out like Big Ben. Dear Screech, dear boy, where did he go? He melted into the black night just like snow. Patrick, man, let me in, please open the door. I think I fucked up, Patrick, really fucked up, man, I'm not sure. I got crazy, left this lady lying still on the floor. I think I killed her, Patrick, come on, man, I can't knock no more.
Wow, okay, this is really interesting. So in the first section, Screech comes across like he's hard as nails and he's probably killed people before and doesn't care. And then suddenly he's realising that he's probably made a massive mistake and he's knocking on his friend's door and going, oh my God, I think I've killed somebody. And then suddenly he seems more like a little kid who's made a mistake and doesn't know quite what to do about it and maybe isn't quite as comfortable with his reaction to her not handing over her phone and wallet. And And it's really, really interesting. And I love how Ren uses his guitar as percussion as well. He knocks on it, and he uses that as like another part of his storytelling. And it's the way he described him melting away like snow into the night. It's such fantastic storytelling. He's just so good. And then the opening section of this, you're just like, God, what a gifted guitarist. If he didn't want to do this line of music, he could have made it as like a classical guitarist, I would think. He's so clever. And he's got this kind of balladier quality to his playing, and the way he chooses to open each song particularly when he's on guitar, that reminds me a little bit of kind of old stories like Robin Hood and things like that. And actually the Disney one even does this. They have a rooster at the beginning of the Disney version of Robin Hood, and he's there with a mandolin or something, and he's telling the story, the fable of Robin Hood, and he plays a little bit on his stringed instrument and then tells a bit of the story. And that is what Ren does. That's a kind of classic balladeer kind of device, and so that's used in a lot of folk storytelling still nowadays, but it was very much historically how storytellers would do things. That's how they would kind of gather a crowd and people would come around and listen, and Ren has that absolute quality of like this musical town crier. It's amazing. It's got like a Shakespearean quality to it, that often you'd have a narrator at the beginning of the show kind of telling you, well, this is what goes down. Like at the beginning of Romeo and Juliet, you've got the narrator tells a very brief kind of overview of what happens in the story, and then you see the story. And Ren has that quality. It's like a modern Shakespeare. Like, incredible. Who else do you know that's like that? Who else? I've never met anyone like this. And I've worked in the music industry for a really long time. Why he hasn't won more awards is beyond me. Has he won anything? Let me know. Like, everybody should know who he is. Everybody should be listening to this and being really impressed, because honestly, I've not heard anything like this before. Really, truly. Right, let's see what happens to Screech, who we already don't like, but I think we're going to get a bit of his backstory, and then we're going to feel quite sorry for him, perhaps. Okay.
On the floor, I think I killed a Patrick. Come on, man, I can't knock no more. But Screech kept on knocking till his knuckles became sore. But there's no sign of Patrick down at number 54. No refuge for our villain, for the bitter hands of fate, with something far more sinister in mind that does away.
Right.
Hey, babe, are you in? Nah, nothing really. I'm just a bit tired. Listen, can I swing around yours for a few moments? I just really miss you, babe. What the fuck do you mean you're busy? You fucking bitch! For fuck's sakes!
Oh.
Siren sounds approaching like a banshee in the night. The shrill cry of justice cutting like the sharpest knife. But Screech was never one to run, not one to miss a fight. One hand upon his blade, he turned to face the blue lights. Come on then, you fucking cunts, let's fucking have you then. I am...
Blimey. It's just so good. Like, I can see the whole thing play out in my head. The section before this, when Ren becomes Screech and does that phone call, is really frightening. Like, he's such a good actor. He's done the acting as well. Like, I can imagine him being in some quite gritty British stuff. Like, I could imagine that. He's really talented. And that section where he picks up his phone, I was like, oh God, what's going to happen now? And then he just is Screech. And that's a really interesting section. It says a lot about his backstory. He phones up his girlfriend or something, I'm assuming, and asks her if she's busy, he wants to come over because he misses her. And that's very sweet. And you're like, oh, that's a nice person. That's strange then that he just murdered a woman. And then you don't hear it, but you gather that she says that she's busy. And he goes absolutely off at her. I mean, what do you mean? Like, absolutely screams and swears at her. And you can just see what an abusive relationship that is, and the way he behaves towards her. So therefore, what it is he thinks about women, and that he feels like he has control over women and and that he's allowed to speak to them like that. So then him murdering Jenny makes a lot more sense. Like just in those few lines. It's very, very interesting. Like, I don't know if you've seen Adolescence, which was this TV show that kind of shocked the world and shook it to its core. It's absolutely unbelievable. And it's just these little flips. And the kid, I think, is 14 in it, who goes down for murder. And he does do it. You see him on the video killing the girl. But he comes across very nice. And then suddenly he flips and you hear him behaving in this kind of way towards a woman. And you're like, wow, that's interesting and terrifying that that's in there. And that's really what they think they're allowed to behave like towards women. And this is the moment he does that. Like just in those few lines, we gather so much about Screech's character that explains a lot. And therefore how he's probably going to handle this bit with the police, which is, I don't think it's going to go great, to be honest, because he's clearly up for a fight. He's going to go down swinging, basically, even though he knows he's killed her. He's not going to say sorry, and he's it's not going to go great. It is not going to go great. You can tell. Right. Let's crack on with this bit with the police.
Come on then, you fucking cunts, let's fucking have you then. I am Screech, I'm the boss, I'm the ender of men. You think that uniform you're wearing means that you own these streets? These are my fucking streets, and they call me fucking Screech. Richard was an officer who stood at 6'3", working London on the night shift. What he didn't think he'd see was a boy running at him like an animal possessed. With no time to hesitate, he fired 4 bullets at Screech's chest.
Wow. That was a really brilliant, interesting use of the instrument, making it sound like bullets hitting a chest, a thud. And then the way they did the camera work, like he'd fall onto the ground, that was so clever. Just these little things just paint the image even more clearly. It's so sad and so honest. So sad that this kind of thing must happen a lot. And these are stories that we don't hear about because they're probably too common. And maybe they think that other people won't really care about them. But I love that Ren tells these stories because we should know about them. Otherwise, how are we going to help these kids? How are we going to help things be better if we don't know that this is going on? And it also actually says a lot about how kids like Screech treat the police, how they behave towards the police. Perhaps they're brought up in a home, in an environment where the police are the enemy and the police are out to get them, and it's really interesting that that's his first reaction, is to be like, come on in, to the police, rather than, I don't think I would ever do that. I'd be like, oh gosh, I'm so scared. It's like when there's a police car following you and you're driving, you get really aware of your driving. You're like, oh, I'll just make sure I'm driving really nicely. He is not doing that. He is the complete opposite. And that speaks to the community perhaps he's in, the family he's in, if he's got one. That's how he thinks you should behave towards the police, and that the police are the bad guys. It's very, very interesting. Okay.
Our story, it ends right at the start. Young Screech and poor Jenny lying one street apart.
Well,
An officer shaken by the boy that he claimed. 2 bodies lay lifeless, and it's such a shame. It's such a shame.
Oh, that chord. Okay, so this is the 3rd section.
London City.
Gosh, gorgeous opening. So we're back in his hospital gown situation that he's wearing in High Ren. So I don't know if that's a link between this and that. I don't know, but that's quite an interesting outfit that I've seen him in a couple of times when he's talking a lot about mental health. So maybe that's a link. I love how each of these stories opens with a different kind of classical flamenco riff and then a different bit of vocalizing, but they all feel kind of connected, like they belong together, but they're slightly different facets of the same work. Like it's a symphony, and they're the different themes from each section. It's beautiful. I don't know if he intentionally does that, but going back into my classical music kind of training and my degree and stuff, it's like all those things are kind of leaping out to me that he's used those clever little devices. So whether it was intentional or not, he seems to have done it, and it's pretty great. So I feel like this story is Violet's tale. So I don't know who Violet is, but perhaps she's linked somehow because musically it kind of links to the previous two tales. So let's see about this.
London City, far from pretty, 2005. A lady down in Paddington is fighting just to stay alive. Rhythmic beats and bloodstains, she saw a lady weep, she's tired and frail. To set the scene, we must rewind the hands of time for Violet's tale.
Oh my God, using that. He is just so clever. That musical device was so good. That was like, wasn't quite a whole tone scale, but it was, I don't know specifically what mode it was, but it had a really odd kind of transporting kind of feeling. So it was quite often they use a whole tone scale that's played on a harp or something to demonstrate the passing of time or thinking back to that time. They even in Frasier, there's like a comedy moment where they say it was only yesterday, and a harp in the room plays this scale, and everyone looks around, and it's really funny. They use that as a comic device because we all know it as it demonstrating the passing of time or going back to tell a story from before. And he does that here with his guitar in a really clever way. So we're turning back the clock to hear about like how Violet got there, how she's in this hospital bed, like who she is, what her story is, and how it connects to the other two characters that we've already heard about who are already dead. So is her story before theirs or at the same time? Let's find out.
Violet was a silent girl, grew up with violent starts. Her mother was a drinker and her father was a bastard. Every night he took her tie but never left the room. I'll spare you of the things he did, I'm sure her mother knew. Violet was a silent girl, she moved out at 16. A semi-detached council flat, paid for by a welfare scheme. Packing shelves at Tesco, stacking jars like pickled bricks. She met a boy named Stevie and he was a little prick. Violet was a silent girl and Violet she fell fast. See, Stevie was a wrong un, but he sure knew how to charm her. Every night he took her tie but never left the room. History repeats itself, he'd paint her black and blue.
Oh God, this is something that talked about a lot in life, that we're all victims of victims. So Violet's parents clearly didn't do the best job. Mother was a drinker, the dad was abusive. And while Ren doesn't share specifically what he did to her, it's horrible. And so she gets the hell out of there at 16, which is really young, and goes and lives on her own and gets a job and things. And that's great. Like, she chose to get herself out of there. But because all she'd experienced was this horrible violence. So if the dad was violent towards Violet, I expect he was violent to the mum as well. So all she saw was that's what relationships are like. So therefore she wouldn't know to look how to find someone nicer, how to find someone that wouldn't behave like that towards her. So this guy, Stevie, who's a wrong 'un, as Ren says, like, she wouldn't know that. She would just think that's how all men were. And that's just heartbreaking, isn't it? That we just follow the same patterns. We just follow what we know because we don't know any other way. And it's so hard to break that cycle. So there's a thing we talk about, sometimes my husband and I talk about this when we look at our history of our families and other people's families and things, is that we fall into roles that we know, even if they're not good for us. So we end up seeking out the people who are, if we had an abusive dad, we will probably seek out someone that's like that because it's what we know. We feel safe with it, even though we don't like that necessarily. And then we fall into the victim role because that's what we are comfortable with, even though we know it's not great. It's very, very hard to break out of that cycle. And that's why, there's so many women go through horrific domestic abuse, absolutely horrific. And people just say, why don't you leave? And it's not that simple. It is not that simple for people because it's not just what they know from their own relationship, it's what they've known from their history, from their parents, from what they've seen. So they don't know that there's a way out. They don't know how to get help. They don't know perhaps that it's not normal. And it's terrible that these things happen, but it goes back so far. It's like I always say, we're all victims of victims trying to make the best choices we can, but sometimes it's like we're in like a checkmate already. We're already screwed because of the things that have happened to us that we can never escape. And particularly growing up in this very rough part of London that Ren's talking about here, they're not around great people. They're not around people who have escaped from this. They're around these same kind of people who perhaps behave in the same way. And then you're just perpetuating that. What you see around you is the same kind of thing, like the dad beating up the mum and abusing the daughter and things. That's what they see. So perhaps they think that's how it is.
The wrong and but he shun you out to charm her. Every night he took her tight but never left the room. History repeats itself, he'd paint her black and blue and dark. She never stood a chance. The devil comes to dance. Violet, why are you always so quiet? On her bedroom door and he's irate. He's been drinking and smoking, he's up late. And he stands by her bedside, she shakes, but her eyes stay shut. You fucking slut, I know you're up. And he pinches her eyelids and folds them up. Violet, why are you lying to me, Violet? She stays silent, things turn violent. That's the sound of his fists when they fall like a crashing pilot. Hit like hailstones, one to the collarbone, full force, full blown, blood's black bone, crack, knick, knack, paddywhack, one to the jaw and the tooth spat, detached fist connects and disconnects a bone. A quick deflect to misdirect the blow, but nonetheless his punches met her throat. Such a mess he's left her bruised and broke. Violet, why you always so silent, Violet? Why you such a little liar, Violet? Do you think I want to do this, Violet? In character, she stays silent. Well, say something, Violet. Silence. Fucking say something, Violet. Silence. Wait. Say something, Violet. Not one word. She stays quiet.
Oh, that's horrific. Like, I've dealt with domestic abuse before, but nothing on that level. That is just horrifying. And the way Ren tells that story in such a visceral way. It just they're not just facts. He's telling the story as if he's committing the crime and having the crime committed to him, and the whole thing is so forceful and frightening. Like, I felt like I didn't breathe for all of that section, and the way he speeds the rhythm up with the punches and things, it's just these musical devices he uses are absolute genius to get that section of the story across in such a way that I don't think it's possible for you not to be moved by that. It's really captures you. You already know that this character is violent, but this section like pulls her eyelids up to see if she's awake. Like, what? How horrible! That's just, ugh. It's the way he says that, and he says it in such a, like the way he's saying in High Ren when he's talking about, you know, the darker side of him, and he has that kind of slightly more menacing nasal side of his voice. He uses that here, and of course Violet stays silent. That's what she does. Like, she has stayed silent for her whole life about, you know, never speaking out about her father's abuse, never speaking out about her mother's drinking, never speaking out about how violent her partner is to her. Of course she stays silent. Characteristically, she is silent. And she's silent here because I think he's beaten her to within an inch of her life. Of course she's silent, as so many women are who go through domestic abuse and other kinds of abuse. Like, they know not to say anything because it'll make it worse. It's really frightening, and the way this story is told is, it's hard to put into words. I can see why Ren's stuff is not played on the radio, because people would just be like, what? I was having a cup of tea and listening to the radio, and then this came on. People would just be dumbstruck. I don't think they know what to make of it. And I think if this is the first thing I'd seen of Ren's, I would have been really quite, I don't know, so challenged by it that I don't know if I could have listened to anymore, because it's not an easy listen, is it? It's not like a lovely walk in the park and a nice song and you're like, oh, how lovely. It is something so much darker and so much more interesting, but so deeply challenging, deeply, and it just makes you feel for all these victims, these unknown victims, and Ren is giving a voice to a representative of these victims, and he's choosing to use his platform to tell this story, and that is incredible, absolutely incredible. And with his particular gift of storytelling, it's doing more than, you know, loads of adverts that we have about domestic violence and what to do. This is so gritty and real and unpleasant that it hits you in a way that you can't really switch off. Like, you feel kind of changed by it in a way that you didn't really want to be changed, but nevertheless you are, because you can't ignore the things that have been said and know that they're true.
London City, far from pretty, 2005. A lady down in Paddington is fighting just to stay alive. The doctor, in a state of shock, saw something here so very wrong. See, Violet, she was pregnant. Poor Violet, she was 9 months gone. Turning to the doctor, Violet broke her silence and she cried, if I'm to die right here tonight, please let my baby stay alive. The doctor soon regained composure, called the surgeon to come in. As Violet's world turned to black, the curtains closed, the lights went dim. In London City, far from pretty, 2005. A lady down in Paddington just lost the fight to stay alive. A tragedy or a miracle, it happened on these very streets. Two twins are lying side by side. A girl named Jenny.
No.
And a boy named Screech.
No. Oh my God. I was very much hoping that that wasn't going to be the end of the story, but just knowing musically where it was going, and tying all those musical themes together, I was like, this is going to be how those kids were born. It happened on these very streets. That's where the kids died. One killed the other one, and they didn't even know that they were related. Maybe because, like, if Screech knew that Jenny was his sister, he wouldn't have killed her. I don't. There's obviously a big gap there. Maybe there's another song that fills it in or something. But that is, it's like a Shakespearean tragedy, kind of, the end of Romeo and Juliet, when everybody dies, ends up killing themselves or each other and things, and it's just this. And Hamlet's the same. Everybody ends up dead apart from like two people, and everyone's like, it just sees the awful tragedy that it is. And this is like that. This is like a Shakespearean level tragedy, but set in like a rough bit of London. And that doesn't make it any less tragic. It just makes it much closer to home in terms of time. Like, he talks about it being about 2005, which for some people is long ago, but others it's not so much. And like, it's just so sad. So sad. Wow. And they beat her up when she was 9 months pregnant. 9 months pregnant. I remember how, and I wasn't having twins, I was having one child at a time. And I could barely do anything when I was 9 months pregnant. I was waddling around, and my husband had to do loads of things for me. I couldn't paint my own toenails. He had to like help me with, I had like sciatica, and he would do everything for me. He was so loving and so kind. I couldn't have got through that, and I couldn't have got through the birth without him. And for her to have gone through all of that on her own, and she must have not been very big if she only thought she was having one child. You're normally bigger if you're having twins, and you'd be 9 months gone, which is also not normal when you have twins. Usually you deliver a bit early because it's very difficult to give birth to twins. So you usually have a C-section before you're fully at 9 months. And you'd look bigger because you were carrying two babies. And so did she not know she was pregnant? Did she not have any checkups? Didn't she? It's horrifying, like the level of care, or the lack of care, that there was nothing. It's just terrible. It's just horrible that these poor kids came into the world like that, and their mum died giving birth to them because she'd been beaten so badly by their dad. It's just horrendous. It's just so sad that it feels like an exaggeration, but I'm sure it isn't. I'm sure there are plenty of people for whom that is their life story. Just terrible. Absolutely awful. So heartbreakingly and honestly told. So sad. And it kind of has echoes of Blood Brothers, if you know musical theatre. I know Blood Brothers was a play first and then a musical, and that is about these twins being born to a family that couldn't afford them, or had loads of kids, and they gave one child away and kept one, and the boys end up meeting a bit later in life, and they end up accidentally dying on the same day. They one kills the other one, I think, or I can't remember now. It's been a little while since I've seen Blood Brothers, but it's heartbreaking because they end up being born and dying on the same day. It's this awful tragedy that goes full circle, and that's what happens here as well. The twins born and died on the same day as each other, 2 streets apart. Terrible, absolutely awful. I can see why so many of you wanted me to watch this particular one, and I'm really grateful to you for suggesting it, but also I'm slightly horrified that now I've seen it and now I know this information. It's made me feel so sad and heartbroken for people for whom this is their reality. And like, how did Ren find that in him to play those characters? I don't think he's a trained actor. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And if he's not a trained actor, then blimey, he should just go and be in stuff because he's amazing. But being able to find that level of malevolence inside him to play Screech in some of it and then play Stevie in some of it, which they're both very unpleasant characters. And he plays both of them with a real level of acting chops, like incredibly powerful and unsettling, like really unpleasant. I don't know how he did that. Please, if any of you know how he did that or what his training is, please let me know, because I am fascinated that not only is he this exceptional musician and lyricist, he can also act so brilliantly in these very simple videos. It is all about his storytelling, his guitar playing. There's no other instruments, no other singers, nothing. Just him, and that is all we need. It is compelling enough with just this one solitary, exceptional human. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, and comment. I love all of your comments, so keep them coming. And remember to have a colourful day. Listening